There we go. Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to another SCP Resurrection reading stream. Today, we're going to start with Part 1, The New Beginning. We'll be reading Immediate Actions by Dr. Everett Mann, The Seed of an Idea by The Deadly Moose, Contingencies by Dr. Clef, and we'll probably be able to get to Deals with the Devil by Sophia Light. But this is where we're going to start, so let us begin. Immediate actions. There were explosions on site. It wasn't entirely unheard of, but these didn't seem controlled. Also not unheard of, but it still made Iris nervous. The door to her cell opened and an agent stood there. He was younger, with Mexican features, and she didn't recognize him. 105, get up, we need to move you. She could tell he was new. Most of Site-17 personnel were used to calling her real name, outside of official documentation. The shrinks thought it would be helpful in keeping her emotionally stable. She had to laugh. Should I take anything? She asked as she got up from her seat. No time. We'll send someone for it later. He motioned for her to hurry. She walked to the door. She was long past the time she had resisted or tried to escape. Where would she go? She'd probably just end up somewhere worse. He led her into the hallway and didn't bother to re-secure the door. She realized then that things were extremely wrong, rather than the baseline of very wrong she'd grown accustomed to. He hesitated a moment, then said, "This way." She almost offered to guide him, but he probably wasn't prepared for a skip to show that kind of initiative. There were gunshots nearby. "Stay behind me." The agent pulled out his sidearm. There were dead bodies through the next door. There was a gunshot, and the back of his head blossomed outward. Iris crouched in the frame of another door, pressed as hard as she could into the shallow alcove. Okay, I need to turn off this, because otherwise I'm going to continue to trip myself up, which isn't great. There we go. Okay, apologies for that. She listened as someone walked up to the door. She held her breath and waited to see if they'd walk in or lean in far enough to see her. After a moment, she heard them turn and walk away. She stood still a moment longer, then reached down and picked up the dead agent's sidearm. This broke any number of rules, but Rule 1 was to avoid dying in a senseless firefight, and you had to prioritize in these situations. She took a different hallway. Hopefully, she'd run into someone who could help her. Hopefully, they wouldn't shoot her. That would be nice. There were containment rooms, but she avoided those. You never knew what was in there, and anyway, that was probably what the guys in black suits were after. Unless they were really interested in Dr. Jones's paperclip collection. In the next hallway, the containment chamber had been opened, and the door torn off its hinges. There were several black-clad bodies on the floor. Standing above them, tearing the flesh off of a humerus, was an ogre. 8 feet tall, with bulbous nose, pointed head, and sharpened teeth. He smiled wickedly from around his meal. "Ah, mon chéri, you joined the party?" She tightened her grip on the sidearm and forced herself to remain calm. "Ferdinand." "Will you have a quick picnic with me?" he asked. "I am having my morning exercise." No, thank you," she said. She began to walk past him, not fast, not running. Predators chase things that run. "As you like. Perhaps we meet again later, eh? A little rendezvous, très romantique. He chortled around his clenched teeth. Iris suppressed a little shudder. Still, bad as Ferdinand was, he couldn't hold a candle to him. As she entered the next doorway, she saw the shape of a cow, but completely, utterly black. The air around it appeared slightly distorted, as though it were doing something with the light. It started moving towards Iris, who immediately turned tail. She'd take her chances with the men in black. At least she knew what the bullets did. She heard it picking up speed, and she turned a corner, slipped through a door, and closed it. As she leaned against the door and caught her breath, she heard the staccato call of gunfire. She dropped to the floor, counted to 3, cursed the cow thing silently, then looked up. There were 5 of the black-clad men firing down the hallway, perhaps 10 feet away, using an overturned desk as makeshift cover. She couldn't tell what they were shooting at from her position, but the bullets were flying overhead suggested site security wasn't quite out of the fight yet. However, there wasn't too much gunfire coming from that direction compared to the amount of lead the black suits were throwing down the hall. It seemed like the Foundation were outnumbered, at least in this hallway. She considered her options. She could wait and hope the Foundation would send reinforcements, but that seemed chancy. Whoever this was, they were organized and probably had a good evacuation strategy planned. Once they realized she was here, she could try playing dead, but even a dead skip could be a useful skip, and they'd figure out she was pretending pretty quickly. She considered it unlikely whoever it was would treat her as well as the Foundation. Only one option then. She took a knee, carefully took aim, and shot the closest man in the back of the head, then the next one, and the one after him. It was easy. That was what she hated about it, how easy it was. There was a click, and the gun refused to fire. Without even thinking, she went back to her immediate actions. She slammed the magazine into the heel of her left hand, then slid the rack back, and the jammed bullet fell out. The other 2 were starting to realize there was a problem, so she shot the 4th. The 5th almost had her, but then gunfire from further back took him down. It was only as he fell to the ground she started to feel again, and the gorge rose in her throat. "It's me," she called. "SCP-105, they're dead." She dropped the gun, kicked it forward, and then knelt down with her hands on the back of her head until the agents got her and took her safely. "You need to see this, ma'am." The man was nervous, but he was always nervous, like a small dog, really. "What is it?" she asked. She was still a bit tired. It had been a long night the night before. It usually was. But the last time he had told her she needed to do something, there was an active attempt on her life. She was good at picking up things like that. "Footage from the latest containment breach. I think you should pay special attention here." He jumped to a point in the tapes to show a young woman. "Yes," she said, then, "Yes, I see." She thought for a moment. "Yes, good work, Henry. You were right. I did need to see this." She opened a very special program on her phone. "We'll all need to see this, I think." And that is the end of immediate action. Start of the seed of an idea. The small briefing room was intended to seat 20 people. Now it held maybe 60. Each and every one of the people crammed into the room were from the highest echelons of the Foundation. At least one of them was a member of O5 Command, though only one of them knew which. They were watching the recordings and analysis of the Site-17 security breach. Breakdowns, analysis. Mostly, they were watching footage of SCP-105. Just outside the doorway, a smaller group of 5 people watched the activity in the briefing room. The first was in heels and seemed rapt by the presentation. The second wore a hat and a glum expression. The third wore a dark suit and looked serious, accentuated by a somewhat military air. The fourth wore spectacles, and the fifth wore a nice pair of gloves. Cordovan leather. These 5 were not members of O5 Command. An unromantic way of putting it would be that they belonged to O5's secretorial pool. Everything about them was classified: their histories, their positions, their roles, their names, even their genders. They were close enough to the top to have power, but still expendable enough to be useful. You see 'em, Heel said. They're thinking it too. I can't believe we're actually considering this, Hat said. She hasn't been able to practice her abilities for the last 10 years, Suit said, since Omega 7. 9 years, Heel said, watching the recording on the briefing room's projector. Still, Suit said. These aren't anomalous abilities, Spectacles said. Just her arms training. Still, Suit echoed, the way she handles the gun jamming. Suit shook their head in admiration. Tap, rack, bang, without hesitation. That's extraordinary retention. Why is this idea so damn appealing? Hat asked. It was a simple containment breach. Why does everyone care about this single SCP? You know why? Heel said. Because she represents Omega 7 as much as Abel. We wrote off Abel, we wrote off Iris. Maybe we didn't need to write off both. That's enough, Hat said. Glove smiled. Because some people in the Foundation never stopped wanting to play with superheroes. It's not just that either, Keel said. We all know that the Council takes it as read that we need to make further use of anomalous assets. Amnestic use alone has ramped up massively in the past few years, and we wouldn't still exist without the use of Scranton reality anchors. These are anomalous largely for technical reasons, he said. Hat said. 105 and anomalies like her are things that shouldn't even exist. Even if that didn't matter, using sapient anomalies as weapons is always a bad idea. It might be, Neil said. But just look at her. She took down 5 hostiles, helped shut down a breach. You've seen her psych profile, she's absolutely loyal. And with her abilities, if we allowed her to develop them again, her potential is... Potential? Han asked. What you're proposing is to take an SCP, one of our safest humanoids, to boot, and make them much more dangerous. And that's just for starters. Which other SCPs are we going to include in this project? Are we going to jump straight into running 076 again? How many sites do you think we'll lose this time? You know we're smarter than that now, Heel said. Are we? Why is this necessary? You've seen the archive, same as me, Heel said. Back when Omega 7 existed, how many SCP objects had the Foundation archived? How many have we archived since then? How many have we archived in the past year alone? They all knew the answer. That doesn't make this the right response, Hat said. Not that we're discussing, not an anomalous task force. We're at our limits. We can't just passively contain it anymore. You've seen all the reports I have. All the new formulas that we've been forced to create. We need to go further. We need to make use of all our assets. We need to act now, or maybe we don't survive another 9 years. Maybe the Earth doesn't either. A task force doesn't solve that problem. Maybe not. Maybe not right away. But it's a start. It sends a message, opens the doors for other things. The cost won't be too high. You should know that. I've got some concerns as well, Suit said. Project Resurrection will already suffer from comparisons to the Zero incident and the Kondraki debacle. Omega 7 is one of the few projects imaginable that people might have a bigger problem with remembering than the destruction of Site-19. I understand that, Heel said, but just look. Heels nodded at the group in the briefing. They were watching 105 take out the invaders again. An analyst was explaining why Team Iris had been shuttered. She was taking questions, people were asking questions. The queue for the microphone stretched into the hall. We don't do this, Heel said. Someone else will. Or, we don't do this, Heel said. Someone else will. A few years down the line, and they will do it wrong. I have to admit, I'm surprised at the response, Suit said. I thought a lot of people considered 105 irrelevant after all this time, without our camera pretty much neutralized. Some don't, Keel said. Many don't. If I may, Glove spoke up for the second time. Iris Thompson was second only to Abel in Omega-7's most important asset. As Omega-7's most important asset. For good or for ill. Everyone remembers Omega-7. It left a mark on our organization bigger than almost anything else since the insurgency. We cannot enter into this lightly. Even if I said this, Hat said, it'll never be proved. A lot of people are going to react to this poorly. Any change of significance makes people angry, Heel said. The difference is, this time, they'll have grounds to complain, Hat said. And even if it were approved, she wouldn't agree. 105? Heels asked. She'll agree. Abel killed the rest of Omega-7, remember? With her parents gone, her former life gone, her team on Omega-7 made up all the people she cared about in the world, and she watched them all die. They paused. She was 15. 15! She'll never forgive us for that, and she'll never agree to this. She will, Keel said. I won't be a part of this, Het said. If you want to do this, you know what to do. If you need advice, you know where to find me. But I can't sign on to what you're proposing here. Sorry. Hat tipped their namesake and walked away. The rest of the group in silence, watching the activity in the briefing room. What are you gonna call it? Suit asked Heels. The Mobile Task Force. Gonna revive Omega-7? Not Omega-7, Heels said. Too much baggage. We know we need to do this differently. We may as well start with the name. You want numerological significance, Glove said. Importance for a project like this. Go with Alpha 9. So, you're on board then? Hell no, this is a terrible idea. It's probably the worst idea I've ever heard from some otherwise smart people, Glove smiled. But it should be entertaining as hell. I wish you all luck. The remainder of the group watched Gloves disappear down the hallway. How about you two? Heels asked Suit and Spectacles. Suit nodded. I'm convinced for now. I'm on board, Spectacles said. My reservations aside, I can't deny that this is a natural fit for the Resurrection Project. I know a couple of high-placed potential allies, people who would jump at this kind of opportunity. You could do it right this time. We gain nothing if we don't try. We can keep enough control this time that there need be no unnecessary loss of life or damage to the Foundation. If it turns out badly for us, then so be it. At least then we'll know. Reopening Pandora's box then, Neil said. I suppose in that myth, the box could never be closed again anyway. Not Pandora's box, Suit said. Let's call it what it is. And what's that? What was left over when Pandora's box was opened? Suit said. Last hope. And that is the end of The Seed of an Idea. Next, Contingency. You want me to go back into the field? We need you to go back into the field. This is not a request. This is an order. The woman in the mint green pantsuit said. Dr. Aldo Cleft, also known as Agent Ukulele, also known as Father of Lies, also known as the Serpent, also known as the Smiling Man, also known as That Bastard, shook his head. After the way you treated us last time, I think fucking not. We had no choice, the woman in the mint green pantsuit said. It was an emergency. We needed all your skills back then. We need them again now. Why? So I can ride hard on the next batch of schmucks you convinced to do your dirty work? all to end up getting tossed out into the cold the moment something goes wrong. That's something being caused by the bullshit protocols under which y'all going to make us operate. This hobbling our ability to do our fucking jobs, I refuse. You'll have to find someone else to be your hitman. I say this again, this is not a request, this is an order, the woman in the green pantsuit said. Or have you forgotten the terms of our deal? Are you reneging? Clem did not reply. It's a dangerous world out there for a young woman, especially one who has the kinds of challenges she does. Very dangerous indeed. The seconds ticked by. Clef unclenched his fists, trying to ignore the pain of his fingernails that had caused digging into the palms of his hands. So it's come down to this, huh? You gonna use her as leverage against me? If we must. We would prefer that you come back to work for us as in a much more amicable fashion, the woman in the mint green pantsuit said. It's been 9 years. I've been behind a fucking desk most of the time. I don't know if I can do it again like I used to. It will all come back to you? No. As much as I hate to admit it, I'm 9 years older, Clef said. I'm not as strong or as fast or as tough as I used to be. I've got a bigger belly, my hands shake, my eyes are worse. If you want me to do this again, I'm gonna need some help. We anticipated this. Draw up a list of candidates for your task force. I only have one. Andrea Adams. Impossible, the woman in the mint green pantsuit said. No, it's not. Adams is assigned to desk duty because you're afraid of her. But if I'm gonna do the job you're asking me to do, I need Adams. I know she's been requesting reassignment to mobile task forces. I know you've been denying her requests. Either you give me Adams or you find someone else to head your task force. The seconds ticked by. Your condition is agreed upon, the woman in the mint green pantsuit said. Andrea Adams will be reassigned to your task force as requested. Then get the hell out of my way and let me get to work, Clef growled, and send me a copy of the bastard's file as soon as possible. Item number, SCP blank. SCP number pending. Object class Keter. Special containment procedures. SCP blank is to be contained in a standard Class B suit at Site 17 until such a time as termination order can be carried out. Containment protocols are to utilize the appeasement protocol. For this reason, all requests for alterations to furnishings are to be carried out at the first available opportunity. Current alterations include 1 refrigerator to be restocked daily with requested food and drinks, approved. 1 television with Xbox video game console online capabilities disabled, approved. Various games for Xbox One including Watch Dogs and Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, approved. Personal computer for entertainment purposes, including limited access to streaming video files uploaded to local non-internet enabled server, approved. SCP blank is to provide a weekly request sheet of desired movies. Female companionship for the purposes of sexual activity. Pending. Description. Subject is a male of European descent between the ages of 19 to 24, with blonde hair and blue eyes, approximately 160 centimeters tall and 82 kilograms in weight. Subject is extremely emotionally unstable, with a short temper, refusal to submit to authority, and tendency towards temper tantrums. As the subject's emotional instability directly correlates to the manifestation of his anomalous abilities, every effort is to be made to avoid provoking any emotional outbursts of the subject. Subject is a Type 2 localized line-of-sight reality alterer, meaning range of effect is 20 meters, with a maximum detected range of 200 meters. Primary form of reality alteration is physical phenomena, including rapid dislocation of objects, dislocation of space-time, and telekinetic force. Subject has limited control over their abilities, which correlate to incidents of high stress or emotional distress in the subject. Attempts to administer sedatives have proven unsuccessful to date. Due to the difficulties in containing the subject, O5 Command has authorized use of the appeasement protocol for temporary containment, pending final termination. Adams! You motherfucker! Good to see you too, Adams. I thought I told you 3 years ago that I never wanted to see you again, you loathsome... Hold on. I need to check if this is a male or a female, because... Hmm... Okay, I have sorted it out in my head who is who. Adams. You motherfucker. Good to see you again too, Adams. I thought I told you 3 years ago that I never wanted to see you again, you loathsome fuck. Adams slid into the chair across from Clef and put her kitten heel black leather pumps into a stack of half-finished paperwork. And yet here I am. Care to explain this bullshit? Your use of invective has improved dramatically, Clef said. You never swore like this when you worked for me. That's because I was fucking terrified of you. You never asked for a transfer. I was damned if I was going to let you get the better of me. And you've done well since then. Moved up the ranks. Your rise has been meteoric, from junior administrative assistant to senior special agent in less than 5 years. No one else has ever been promoted that quickly in the history of the Foundation. No thanks to you. What do you want? You've requested transfer to the mobile task forces, but you haven't heard yet where you're going. You're undoing what's taking so long. What's taking so long is this. Clef tossed a manila envelope onto the desk. Adams picked it up gingerly between thumb and forefinger. Oh, just open it, it won't bite. I'm never sure with you, Adams growled, but she opened up the folder and began to read. It took her about half an hour to finish reading, and by the time she was done, her stomach felt like it was made of lead. This is real? She asked hoarsely. It is. This is... Adams shook her head in disbelief. Clef, these stupid motherfuckers are reinstating the Omega-7 project. Alpha 9 now. Last hope. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Adams tossed the manila folder back onto the desk. Let me guess, she said. They want me to be part of it. No, Adams. You're being reassigned No, Adams, you're being assigned to a new mobile task force. TAV 666. TAV 666? No, Clef said. TAV with a V, Hebrew alphabet. Not Greek. That didn't make any sense. Mobile task forces don't use the Hebrew alphabet, Adams said. You've always been quick on noticing the obvious, Adams. Oh, fuck off, Doctor, Adams snapped. No, I'm serious. Noticing the obvious is a useful skill in this line of work. Now, tell me something else obvious that no one else would have noticed. What the hell was there? A 3-digit number? Adams asked. Number of the beast, my dear. Numerologically speaking, the number of Nero, the Roman emperor who stood by and fiddled with while Rome burned. The man whom the early Christians hated so much that they turned his name into that of the devil itself. You see the symbolism? Adams rolled her eyes. Stop it with the devil bullshit. I don't buy it for a moment. I'm not the devil, Adams, but we are Satan's adversaries, opposers. Our role is to oppose, To the adversary that... To be the adversary that... R? You see what I mean by noticing the obvious, Adams? Yes, R. I'm the commanding officer, you're my exec, and that's it. Tav 666 is an MTF of 2. The clock ticked on. And here's the part you're really going to love, Clef said. Mobile Task Force TAV 666 is a black task force. We appear on no org charts except to the 05. We don't exist. Our job is going to be keeping an eye on the new 05's toys. Things became clear. Adams steepled her fingers. We're the safety valve in case Alpha Niner goes tits up, she said. Clef smiled. Ah, Adams, I knew I liked you for a reason. Addendum. Per the Clef protocol, SCP blank is to be terminated at the earliest possible opportunity. Senior Agent Andrea Adams will carry out the termination. So what now? Now, Adams? You prove you can do the job. Read this. Clef handed her a black folder marked SCP number pending. He poured himself a drink from the water cooler while Adams read. He knew that she was done by the annoyed scuffing noises she made. The annoyed scoffing noise she made. Ugh. I think I've read this story before, she said. You see it too? Exactly the same flavor profile as the first one they asked me to take down. Phase 4 reality bender, limited power, limited control, emotional trigger, appeasement-based containment. Clef grinned. Almost as if they were setting this up as a test case. Adams drummed her steepled fingertips against each other. You think they did? You think the O5s wouldn't? Adams exhaled deeply. People have died thanks to this, Skip, she said. That they have. Something about Clef's voice made something in her brain go click. You don't trust the O5s, she said accusingly. I know them, Adams, Clef said. They don't see people, they see lives, they see numbers. They make all their decisions based on the cold calculus of logic. Maybe that's the only way you can run an organization like ours, but it means we can't trust them to help us. We're not just expendable, we're disposable. He dropped the empty paper cup into his trash can. Sounds like the thinking of a certain motherfucker I know. But not your thinking. That's why I need you... Stuff it, Clef. Adams got to her feet, picking up both folders from Clef's desk. You'll need my equipment request by tomorrow morning. Or you'll have my equipment request by tomorrow morning. Equipment request, termination of Subject Alpha, SCP blank. Staging area located no further than 10 meters from the entrance of the containment facility. Access to SCP-408, coordinated by Special Liaison Zin Kiryu. Suppressed MK217 rifle. Accurized AR-15 variant. Please see also preparations to be made for placement of demolition charges on and around SCP blank containment facility as prepared by MTF Psi-7, Home Improvement, for immediate destruction by remote trigger. Signed, Senior Special Agent Andrea S. Adams. Blank, blank, blank. I see. You're sampling my beats. Equipment request approved. Blank, blank, blank. Good hunting, Adams. Assistant Director Alto Clef, Department of Training and Development. He was sitting on his couch, pressing X to pay his respects, when the door to his apartment opened and a naked Scarlett Jansen walked in. Hey there, big boy, she said in a seductive, sultry voice. He was still staring at her tits when Adams shot him between the eyes. What the hell was that, Adams? That, Dr. Clef, was a successful termination. Adams smiled as she looked up at the ceiling of Clef's office, leaning back in the ratty chair. You got Kiryu to make a naked Scarlett Johansson illusion and shot the target through it. What the hell made you think that was a good idea? Adams sat up straight, leaned her elbows on Clef's desk. I checked the kid's Netflix history, she said. More accurately, I looked at the files he's requesting from the Central Entertainment Server. It wasn't often that Dr. Otto Clef looked lost for words. Iron Man 2, The Avengers, Captain America 2, Adams went on. At first I thought he was just a Marvel fan, but then I noticed he had also been watching Lucy and Under the Skin. It was the last movie that tipped me off. She smiled grimly. Especially because he only ever watches a few minutes of that one. Clef sighed, rubbed his forehead with his fingertips. All right, he conceded. So you used a naked illusion of a movie star to distract him. Can we talk about your kill method? Completely insufficient. Only if you can't hit the broadside of a barn like you. Besides, I have the entire area rigged with explosive in case I miss the shot. I know. If you had used those, you would have killed yourself and everyone else in the area. That's why I didn't miss, Adams said, smiled triumphantly. Admit it, Dr. Clef. You're just jealous that I've accomplished something you never could. Which is? I decommissioned a skip and stayed within my budget. Clef and Adams locked eyes. Clef's smile widens. Touché, Adams, he said softly. The clock ticked on. Well, Clef said brightly. The skip is dead. Traditionally, this is when we go out and I buy you a beer. Can't. Adams got out of the chair and picked up her sports coat. Got a date. Clef raised his eyebrow. Really? What's his name? Cindy. Clef laughed, a short, mirthless barking laugh. You're full of surprises, Adams. The great Dr. Clef, caught off guard. This has been a good day. It's a universal truth that the paperwork always takes 10 times longer than the actual mission. Dr. Clef reflected on this fact as he finished typing up the expense report for Adams' first decommission. In terms of equipment, she had indeed stayed far under budget. The irritating thing, however, was making sure that the proper departments got billed for their time and labor. He clicked over to the first tab, the one where he would fill out the information for the task force that had carried out the mission. Tab 666 was off the books, but he needed to put something down so that the system would accept the expense report. A dummy task force he could use to launder the funds to run tab 666. Clef grinned as he began to type. On Monday, Senior Special Agent Adams walked into her office to find a slip of paper on her desk. Effective immediately, you are reassigned to Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, Dr. Clef's Bisexual Assassination Squad. Team Leader, Dr. A. Clef, Commanding Officer. Senior Agent A. Adams, Executive Leader, or Executive Officer. Team Membership, N. Romanoff, L. UC, S. iPhone, K. Foster, and L. Epidermis. Assignment: to kill bad guys using images of beautiful naked women and other means. Adams felt a vein in her temple start to throb. That is the end of Contingency. On to Deals with the Devil. When the call came, she had figured out enough that she had been expecting it for a while. There had been an air of distance rather than quiet interference from her superiors, like her actions were being watched. Radio silence. Were they going to ask Dr. Sophia Light about Site 41, her pride and joy buried in freezing wilderness? Ask about one of her projects, about Erdent even. The meeting was arranged in the small, well-lit antechamber in the depths of Svalbard site, with the Light's assistant, Vox, watching and taking notes. The council member, 7, was a tall woman with deep brown skin and a fishtail braid. She also wore a teal skirt that looked like it was bought at a value village in the 80s. Light had adjusted our understanding of reality to account for this fact. If she can't wear that, who else can? Thank you for meeting with me, Dr. Light. Likewise, I wouldn't refuse. 7 smiled a lot, but it was nothing but teeth. I've come on behalf of the council to ask your thoughts on recent matters. You've had a storied career thus far. More objects under your care reclassified as explained than any other research director, if I recall. Not by me directly, but yes, I've heard I hold a record. Nobody else has really focused on that. But you said something to the effect that the ultimate goal of the Foundation should be to explain everything? Light grimaced. Not quite. Even I don't believe that every anomaly has a reasonable explanation. I've just said that while the main priority of researchers is necessarily abiding containment, we also have a responsibility to the Foundation and the world to increase our overall ability to explain reality. Raise the scientific waterline, I suppose. Oh yes, that's much less ambitious. Light shrugged. Anomalies are part of reality. Most research seems to ignore the fact that any effort to make them go away and conform to normal science is fundamentally flawed. The anomalies are already here. Interesting. The seconds ticked by. Light asked, what did you want my thoughts on? Well, you've seen the documentation. You were around for some of it. What did you think of Mobile Task Force Omega-7? This was not the track she was expecting. Light considered. Kind of a clusterfuck. It was a bad idea. Extremely. They say hindsight is 20/20. Hindsight bias is a factor. I still wouldn't have planned it that way. What would you have done? Gotten rid of Abel. What else? 7 smiled. Decentralize them. Having to travel as a unit increased response times, reduce the burnout rate from training, and move leadership into a hierarchy within the unit. Flexibility is more important than strict order. She paused. She's never been good at reading people, but saw Vox's service dog bark and jump into his lap, reacting to some sign of his anxiety. This alerted Light third hand that something was wrong. 7 was really smiling. Vox, said Light, if you need to leave, go ahead. It's fine, said Vox. Keep going, said 7. Excellent points. What do you want? Asked Light. Director, we're reopening Pandora's box. A similar task force, Alpha 9 Last Hope. We'd like you to be the director. Permission to get some of whatever command was on when they made that decision. That doesn't sound at all controversial. It is. It will be. But it is proceeding. When possible leaders are discussed, your name came up. Time seemed to slow down. Light's eyes were a little distant. She started thinking very, very quickly. Who else? We asked Lament first, another senior operative with an impressive track record. What did he say? He said it was the worst idea he'd ever heard, and told 4 to fuck off. Light snorted. That's my boy. Who else?
After you, we'd ask Dr. Gears. Past that, we're looking at options.
Gears? He would absolutely do it. He'd probably do it very well. He'd fulfill High Command's goals precisely. A person like that was dangerous. On the other hand, if the Council didn't have a fourth lined up, they'd be looking at someone less competent. That was very dangerous. Still, I've never led a task force. My plate is full.
We expect you to leave your post as site director in any meaningful capacity. We're confident you'll do fine.
When you're in a car with no brakes, it doesn't matter how skilled of a driver you are. I don't want to be your figurehead when you crash.
We don't intend to crash. We're changing things up. You'll have autonomy, resources, whatever you need. Training methods are following. Traditional methods are failing to keep up with the influx of anomalies worldwide. Things are getting worse, Director, and we don't want to lose the progress we've made. The world needs Alpha 9.
Excuse me, said Vox. He stood up and unsteadily left the room with Mango in tow. Light looked at Seven. You're serious?
As the body is in the wake of a containment breach.
Are you my O5? Seven blinked.
What?
Well, Light searched for words. I've learned that most senior staff were promoted, well, because some overseer thought they had potential and followed them along the way. I never found out who mine was.
Oh, no. I'm Clef's. Yours is more hands-off. But they're also recommending you for this position.
Light considered the evidence, weighed the options. I'll take it.
Good.
Seven nodded.
I thought it would take more convincing than that.
As you said, I don't want someone less competent than me in charge of this. Lives are at risk. I think this is a mistake, but I believe I have a track record at averting disaster.
Not quite the attitude I was hoping for, but as they say, any port in the storm. We'll be in touch, Director.
Any port in the storm. Yeah. Huh. Afterward, Light sat down next to Vox in the atrium. Wordlessly, Vox handed her a cup of coffee. She took a sip. Did that woman really look me in the eyes? Did that woman really look me in the eyes and say we're reopening Pandora's box? Yep. Light groaned. I don't know how they take themselves seriously. 3 days later, the most urgent administrative duties were reassigned. The suitcases were packed and the office cleared out. One of the more familiar-looking suited council representatives had been hanging around the Svolbard site and reviewing the preliminary details about the task force. Apologies, hiccups. Seven flew herself off shortly after their meeting. The fluorescent light bulb in the meeting room flickered, barely perceptibly. Sophia Light tried to ignore it, closed her eyes. She'd be out of here soon enough. Protection, she said. I don't want my name attached anywhere to this. Don't want to be traceable. Don't want anyone connecting my file to this in the Foundation or outside of it. That's not gonna work, Director. Every group of interest out there with a gun is going to be out for blood once this goes live. I need protection. You do, agreed the suited council representative. But Alpha 9 won't be seen as a hopeful act within the Foundation. People need to know that someone they've heard of and respect is in charge. They do actually have to see you doing it.
Can you at least keep my name out of it until it goes live?
That seems doable.
Alright. Guards then, well-trained, diverse skill set, highly loyal. Maybe a Pope-mobile? If I have to be a target, I'd prefer not to be an easy one. I find dying suboptimal, personally. The representative, to their credit, kept a straight face.
You will have access to our resources. Guards, absolutely.
And anomaly-derived personal defenses. I know Command has their own. You're their representative, you probably have them. Well, I want some too. New designs.
I assume you have ideas already?
Yes.
So did your predecessor. You'll find more in the file.
Light frowned, running her fingers over the yellow folder and its peeling label. General Bowie. Is he my predecessor, technically?
The representative shrugged. Matter of definitions. Symbolically, maybe. With naming the Task Force Alpha rather than Omega, he's not anyone's predecessor.
Lastly, she thought. She wasn't commonly sentimental, but power is just the ability to make uncommon things happen. I want a layover.
They groaned. Right now, Command doesn't like to be kept waiting.
The task force has been shelved for 9 years. They can wait another 6 hours.
Where?
Site 14. Have a few last goodbyes before I drop off the radar indefinitely.
They won't be happy about this.
If I had to be happy about everything I did, I'd never get anything done. Work with me here.
I'll see what I can do. At all.
For now. Thanks, Jay. See you around. She met Vox on the surface, waiting with their bags on the runway. He was bundled in a parka and throwing tennis balls from Mango. She warned him the flight had an unexpected layover, told him that he could keep himself busy. Then she fished out her cell phone and dialed an old contact. The other end picked up on the first ring. Light drummed her feet on the ground. Hey, Troy, it's Sophie. Still kicking? You? Yeah. Listen, I know it's last minute, but I have a flight that's stopping in 14 for a few hours. I wondered if you could free some time up. Vox mouthed to Mango. Sophie? Yes, that sounds great. Yes. Plane's on the way. I can't talk for long. I'll call you once I'm there. Light smiled. You too. She hung up. It's a nice day, said Vox. It was, as far as the days go in Svalbard. Chilly, but the sun bright on the tundra meadows and rolling rock hills. She supposed she'd add the cold and quiet site to the list of places to miss. Vox was still watching her. What? Why did you take it, the position? It's strange that they offered it to you. They say that in the entire universe, not one unusual thing has ever happened. Light, that's bullshit. Light cocked a grin. Arguably, in this instance. I know that High Command has had some kind of interest in me since very early in my career. Used to think I only got promotions because people thought I was either with the Olympia project or related to Bright. But that's not true. There's something else. Is that why you're not worried about, or worried that they're gonna shoot us if this plan fails? They'd only shoot me. Vox. When she offered it, I wasn't sure. Imagine you believe in nuclear power. You can't support it outright because it's politically taboo for inane bureaucratic reasons. But you've seen it can supply humanity with cheap energy, pure water, food, healthy opportunity. But it's dangerous, ventured Vox. Of course it's dangerous. But you strongly suspect that less dangerous than the alternative, not using it. You just can't convince anyone to try it. Then, she continued, Imagine the government puts you in charge of its nuclear weapons program. Oh. What else could I do? She leaned back, staring out at the tundra. Vox nodded. You sure nobody's gonna try and kill you? Someone will, most assuredly, but not command. Like I said, they like me, although I have no idea why. Ah. Above them, a whining engine indicated that their ride was inbound. Vox whistled Mango back to him, clipped on her leash. But, Light said, I need to find out. And then I need to make use of it. And that is the end of Deals with the Devil. I'll take a quick look at what's in the name, if it's short enough. Sure, we can finish this in a little bit over 5 minutes. So, What's in the Name by Dr. Clef. On Monday morning, Dr. Alto Clef, former Director of Training and Development, now the Director of Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, Dr. Clef's bisexual stripper assassin squad, walked into the site of rooms set aside for said mobile task force and waved pleasantly to the attractive woman with vaguely Asian features sitting beside one of the 6 desks in the outer suite, the other 5 of which were empty. Senior Special Agent Andrea S. Adams did not reply. This did not surprise Dr. Clef. He headed down to his own office, closed the door behind him, and turned on his computer. He two-fingered typed his password into the keyboard and began going through the day's emails and alerts. After reading the first couple of messages, he realized something was odd. He scanned his computer screen carefully. His eyes lit upon the header of his emails. That was how Dr. Clef found out that he was now the director of Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, impending sexual harassment complaint. His head snapped up. He glared out the window of his office at the lone occupant of the outer office. Adams's eyes were locked onto her computer screen, and her face was expressionless except for the slight hint of an amused smile around her lips. Clef's left eyelid twitched once. On Tuesday morning, Senior Agent Andrea Adams walked into the suite of rooms set aside for Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, impending sexual harassment complaint, and found that her stationery had arrived. A nameplate, box of notepads, and a stack of 500 contact cards, which were like business cards for people in the same business you are, were sitting on her desk. She picked up one of the contact cards and looked it over. Very nice, she thought. Cream-colored, embossed with the Foundation's logo. They're my name and Mobile Task Force symbol. And the name of the... She glared intently at the name of the Mobile Task Force. Senior Special Agent Andrea Adams, Executive Officer, Mobile Task Force Lambda 2. Uppity smart-mouth bitch. She crushed the card in her hand reflexively as she heard Clef snicker in his office. The cold fury descended upon her and settled just below her heart. On Wednesday morning, Dr. Alto Clef, Director of Mobile Task Force 2, or Lambda 2, uppity smart-mouthed bitch, headed down to the site cafeteria to pick up some snacks and bottled water for his office mini-fridge. He filled out the necessary forms and slid his ID card into the computer as the bearded man behind the cash register gathered up the requested supplies. The bearded man stared at the computer screen, glaring at Clef, and asked, "Is this a fucking joke?" "Oh god," Clef groaned, "not again." The bearded man turned the screen around, revealing that Clef had charged the snacks and drinks to the operating account of Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, fat, ugly, misogynist dinosaur. Clef let out a single, loud, sharp, extremely heartfelt curse. On Thursday morning, Clef smirked as he walked into the office, eagerly awaiting Adams's reaction when she found out what he had changed the name of their mobile task force to. He powered up his computer and looked at the top of his screen. His eyes widened. He stood up from his desk and stormed out of his office, down the hall and down 2 flights of stairs, and down another hall to a red door with the symbol of Record Keeping and Information Security Administration. He opened the door, ready to let out a loud, angry complaint, only to halt dead in his tracks when he saw 2 women there he wasn't expecting to see.
One of them was Adams, standing in front of the desk, clutching a request for minor services form, the same one that he had filed twice this week, requesting change to nickname of Mobile Task Force, looking shamefaced and guilty. The other was a severe-looking woman, appearing on a teleconference screen behind the hapless tech usually assigned to this desk.
Good, you've arrived.
Maria Jones, director of the Foundation's Record Keeping and Information Security Administration, said coldly.
Now that the entirety of Mobile Task Force Lambda 2 adults acting like children are here, I'm going to begin my little talk about wasting my valuable employees' time with stupid office pranks and juvenile games.
On Friday morning, Adams and Clef went to the armory to get a gun. All right, my love, the balding man with the winged dagger tattoo on his bulging right bicep said, there's one MK7 sidearm, serial number 859652000. One shoulder holster, 3 magazines, and 100 rounds of 9mm parabellum ammunition. Anything else? No, Adams said curtly. Good. In that case, you sign here, and you direct Dr. Clef sign here on Task Force Commander. As Task Force Commander. Clef and Adams complied in silence. All right, then, the balding man said. If you'll just hand me your ID cards, I'll input this into the inventory. Clef and Adams handed over their ID cards in silence. The balding man whistled a cheerful tune as he swiped the cards. When his brow furrowed in confusion, he checked and rechecked the date on the screen. Hey, seems like there's an error in the system, he said. I'm getting your unit designation, but not your unit's nickname. That's all right, Clef said shortly. Yeah, no big deal. It happens all the time with new MTFs, the armor said. If you know your unit's nickname, I can enter it for you. No, said Clef and Adams. Director and Executive Officer of Mobile Task Force Lambda 2, no name entered, respectively. And that is the end of What's in the Name. I kind of wish my model had the ability to smile because I enjoyed this one. This was a good half joke, just eye into stuff. But yeah, that is the end of What's in the Name. Again, we've gone through Immediate Actions by Dr. Everett Mann, The Seed of an Idea by The Deadly Moose, Contingency by Dr. Clef, Deals with the Devil by Sophia Light, and What's in the Name by Dr. Clef. Thank you, everyone who's come so much. It's been a joy reading for you, and I hope to be able to do so again in the future. If you're on Twitch and you want to hear more, I'll be reading SCP at 8 o'clock US Mountain Time every day until Friday of this week. And for those of you on YouTube, these will be released on the normal schedule. I'm just recording a bunch of stuff ahead of time because school's starting. But yeah, if you liked it, please leave a like. And if you really enjoyed and want to see more, leave a subscribe. Thank you again very much, everyone, for coming. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a wonderful day out there. Goodbye.